How's it going, everybody? And welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions podcast. I am here up in the attic still for just a few more episodes as I am taking a little bit of a break. But today we're going to be talking with Grace Benvenuti. She is obviously Italian, not born and raised, but she is from the San Francisco Bay Area, is an avid cyclist, has recently popped off on Instagram. And the reason I really wanted to have her on above all of those things is that she has a pretty amazing story about overcoming anorexia. For those of you who have listened to past podcasts, I struggled with body image in a pretty unhealthy way and with bulimia in the past, and have since overcome that. So being able to hear that perspective of Grace's story and how she overcame anorexia is a pretty inspiring thing. So thank you so much to her. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to Grace. From your point of view, who is Grace?
Who is Grace? I would say I am quite bold. I really like to embrace challenges and I don't let setbacks get in my way. And I would say that I lead with enthusiasm and kindness with everything that I do. And I would say despite my natural inclination to always push myself to the limits, I understand the importance of humility and just I've been trying to invite more patience into my life, be it, family, work, relationships. Also, like a big part of patience that I've been really leaning into is with my endurance sports and working out.
Okay, yeah, good answer. So you also told me a little bit ago that your family was really important,
Yes.
close-knit. To you. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, where you grew up. I think you mentioned California, but
Yeah.
maybe a little bit about that and where those family dynamic values came from.
I could talk about my family all the time. I feel like we are like the Brady Bunch. We are 4 people. Me, I'm 23. My sister, she's 28.
Okay.
My mom, God, sorry, I don't know how old my mom is. And my dad, and they're both in their 60s. So my parents met,
Okay.
my mom was 23 and my dad was 26. And my mom is from New Jersey. So she's like very punchy, outgoing. My dad was born and raised in San Francisco, so a little bit more laid back. He came from an Italian Catholic family, and my mom moved out at 17 when she was really young, so she had to kind of pave her way. So they met on vacation in the Caribbean, and my mom wasn't really into my dad as much as my dad was really into her. And over time, my dad really pursued my mom, and my mom really loved how kind and funny my dad was. So she moved to California, packed all of her stuff up, brought her cat. Like, it was just a really big deal for her to move out there. She moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in San Francisco. My dad was still living with his parents at the time. So, like, traditionally in Italian Catholic families, you can't live with your partner or your husband or wife until you are married. So they got married quite quick. And everyone was like, they're going to get divorced. Like, they're doing it way too fast. But they just hit it off so well. And my parents didn't have my sister until they were married for a long time, actually, a couple years. And then they had me after 5 years. So there's an age gap between my sister and I. So I would say my sister is more the quiet one, and me, I'm more outgoing. So we're kind of like night and day between the two of us. She's like another mom to me. And I would say like my mom is also like a sister, but also like a mom as well. And we just really lean on humor. And I remember during COVID, we would like create COVID Olympics. So like all 4 of us, we would do different challenges and we would just like take videos of them. I made an Instagram for my dad to make fun of him because I think he just loves attention and is just such a humorous person. And he was like, we got to put this on my Instagram. I got to go viral. So like he always actually takes my Instagram picture. I'll be like, Dad, like phone, here you go. And he's like, I think he knows my angles. He has a lot of patience for all of us too. So
your angles?
Yeah. I'm like, you gotta get it from the side. You gotta get it in the lighting. He's really good about that stuff, which is great. Maybe one day I'll have a boyfriend who will take my Instagram photos. But for now, it's my dad, Mike.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's awesome.
I grew up in Sonoma County. my parents are still in the house that I was born and raised in. And recently they just got another house that they're going to be going and like vacationing, and like they're retiring soon. So it's going to be really nice to go down to the desert and be with them and experience like desert summers. I feel like in another life I was a lizard who loves the sun.
Yeah.
Like before this, I was just laying out in the sun, just totally like basking. So yeah, I would say I grew up with a really, really good support system. And I think that was everything for me. And I think the reason why I am so flamboyant and I am who I am online is because growing up, I never really had repercussions of like what I would say. They'd be like, Grace, like that's crazy. They would like send me over to the corner for a timeout, but I would get out of it. I'd be like, no, this is like, I don't have time for this. Like, let's move on. So I would say I was the kid who my mom really encouraged me and my dad to try so many different sports. I always felt like I didn't fit in as a child, not necessarily in my family, but, you know, with my friends. My friends growing up, we had a tight-knit group and they were all very, very talented in sports, swimming, running, soccer, all of that. Like endurance sports were their thing. And my mom and dad were like, you can try them if you like. And like, I tried them. They didn't really stick with me. So like, I never tried soccer. I tried swimming growing up. I wanted to be a swimmer. And I remember I got like lessons to swim and I was like, oh, this is really hard. Like my hair is going to get wet. And I was like, I can't do this. Like I don't have the endurance in me to like go as fast as all of these other girls. So I've always been the kid who loved theater. I loved being on a stage and making people laugh and doing musicals and everything. And I remember when I was 16, I auditioned for a commercial for Toyota, and it was going to be a Super Bowl commercial, and they gave it to someone else. And I was so close to having like residuals every single like viewership.
Yeah.
But I know, crazy. So I really got into that, and then did plays, always kind of loved to make people laugh, like I said, and was really encouraged to always be myself. And then when I was in high school, actually, let's go back. I did find a sport that I really liked. I asked my dad, I was like, I would love to play golf. Golf looks like so much fun. You're out on the course. This is like a really random fact about me. You're out on the course. It's sunny. You get to wear a little polo. I love polos. And it was a sport that a lot of women didn't do. And I was like, Dad, I would love a set of clubs. So when I was 8, he put me in golf camps during the summer. And I did that. And I had a friend at the time named Nathan. And we would go to golf camp together. And we just had the best of times. And he was like my guy best friend growing up. We still chat and everything. Wow. And yeah, like growing up golf and playing with Nathan and going back to his house with his brother Ryan and playing like Lego Rock Band. I was always the one on the drums because like the guitar was like too much at once for my brain. I was like, but you're doing it. I could just do that. This is great for me. So going back to his house, his mom would always make us like the best snack. So doing golf with Nathan and going back and playing video games with Ryan and him was a big part of like my summers growing up. So golf has been a sport that I've always carried with me and has always been like in the back of my pocket. And it's just a lifetime sport that you can do whenever. So golf was great.
You still play now?
Yeah, I actually do. Not as much as like I used to, because, you know, golf is like one of those sports where you're like, okay, I have to pay for a tee time and then I have to like set up, and like it's not like running where it's very approachable where you can just get a pair of shoes and then go whenever you want.
Get on, go
or like
with it.
Yeah, or swimming and you can find a pool, or like cycling, you invest in the bike and you can like go for hours. So golfing is a little different. And then when I was in high school, I was really interested in playing lacrosse. So I started playing lacrosse, and then I did club lacrosse. And then I started to kind of find my mojo of being, you know, an athlete or feeling like I was a part of a team. And that was a really good sense of belonging. But I always kind of leaned back on the sports that were very kind of individualistic, or like me, myself, and I, where I could just put on a pair of headphones and just go for hours or just be kind of like in my own sphere. And I think that is kind of what I do now still. It's always carried with me of like loving to go running and being able to put on some music, or like taking a bike out and just like seeing the open road and just feeling like you are in your own space and you can process your own thoughts and then come back then. For me, I like love having a beer after a ride, or like a hard kombucha, and just kind of like talking to friends, just like interacting with people in my comment section. So that's been really, really fun.
Yeah. Wow, there's so much to say there. So let's go back to a little bit. You were talking about laughing and theater and kind of what you get out of that. So I would consider myself a funnier person. It's interesting when you were actually telling the story of your dad meeting your mom. It reminded me very similarly of how I met my wife, because she was not interested in me at first. She like very much friend zoned me, and she actually didn't think I was funny at all when we first got married or around that time. But then I guess I've become funnier to her over time. But I want to ask you about the laughing thing. So for me, whenever I like make my friends laugh, it gives me a very specific feeling. If it's ever in like a public forum, like it brings a lot of value, I think, to my life. But for you, what is it that you like about making people laugh?
Oh, first thing that came to my brain. I love getting a reaction out of someone. And if it's like for me, I think because how I grew up, I had the ability to kind of like say whatever I wanted. I didn't truly get in a ton of trouble for what I said. I feel like for me, I really lean on like the feeling of like mystery of how someone is going to react to what I have to say. And I think since I have no filter, I've really leaned on it. And I think one of my superpowers is the ability to say how I feel, no matter like if it's serious or if it's funny. I say how I feel, and I know other people are thinking it, but they're too afraid to say it or put themselves out there. It's like, I don't have time. Can I swear on here? Or no?
Yeah, you can. I'll mark it as explicit. Yeah, you're fine.
No. Okay, actually, that'll be good for
You're
views.
fine.
Just kidding. I don't have enough fucks to give in my fucks to give bank account to worry about how other people perceive me. Because I truly know it's like, at the end of the day, I have me. And if I'm happy with the person that I'm looking at in the mirror, that's all that matters. And like, if someone liked my joke or they didn't, like, it's great. You can either be like on the train of grace, or you could like totally be like, oh, that's too much. But for me, it's that feeling of like joy of like making someone like, whoa, what did she say? It's that reaction.
Yeah. Okay. So then you've mentioned a few times like that your family, I don't know if it's your mom or your dad, like you didn't get in trouble. They just kind of let you run free, I guess, a little bit.
A little
audibly.
Bit.
Yeah. Is that because they weren't there as much, or is it because they just didn't care, or that, because that seems like a different type of parenting style? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm curious to hear more about that.
I had parents who were very involved with my life. It was never like they weren't around or anything. I think for me, my parents are both very humorous. So for my mom, who's from New Jersey, she's very like quick-witted and very like punchy. I think I took those traits from her. So when we have the ability to like go off and banter with each other, it just is the most fun of times. So, and it was never like, as a kid, I would say like inappropriate stuff, but it would just be kind of like, okay, what kind of joke will stick with my mom? Or like, I will make myself look a fool in front of my friends, or like in front of my mom, just like make her laugh. Like just random things.
Yeah. Okay, I dig it. So you said also you're Italian.
Yes.
Can you pronounce your last name for me? Or I'll try. Tell me just if it's right or wrong. Is it Benvenuti?
Oh my God, you got it right.
Okay, well, it's
welcome.
spelled like relatively easy. It means welcome. Oh, it does, yeah. That's awesome.
So if you ever see me in Italy, like my name will haunt you forever. Or like if you see me at the airport, it'll be like Bienvenidos, Benvenuti, that type of thing.
Yeah.
People really
So your
butcher
dad,
it.
did he immigrate from?
No,
did your dad immigrate from Italy?
My great-grandparents did, and then my nonni and nonno were born and raised in North Beach in San Francisco. So very, very San Francisco-based family. And they met actually in the same hospital room. They were born 2 days apart. And then the mom, so my great grandma and then my other great grandma, became friends. And then they lived in the avenues of San Francisco. And then my noni and nona just were like first loves, like first date, like everything.
Yeah.
So.
Wow, that's so neat.
Yeah,
Do you
it's
know
crazy.
who Nick Goldston is by chance? And sorry if there's a little bit of delay. We'll fix that in post.
No, it's totally okay. I don't know. Let me check. I might follow him. I don't know.
You probably do. So do you know that triathlon life? I know you're relatively new to the
Nick.
triathlon space, but
Yes.
he's a
bunch of mutual friends.
Yeah. I don't know if he actually lives. I'm trying to remember where exactly he lives. But anyway, I've had him on the podcast. He's part of that Triathlon Life podcast, and he does a lot of creative stuff. But he's also Italian and goes back every once in a while, and he just posts some really cool photos of his family and you know, all the Italian-y stuff. But yeah, it's pretty sweet.
I love that. It says he's in LA. So
yeah.
LA's a bit like my vibe, and it's a bit too far away.
Yeah.
But
yeah, where are you at again?
I'm in San Francisco.
San Francisco. Okay, so it's like what, 3-4 hours drive?
3 to 4 hours would be the Central Coast in San Luis Obispo. I used to live there, and then add another like 2-ish hours from that. So around like 5 or 6.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Not too far.
The reason I ask is because I was just looking at my wife and I are going to be moving potentially somewhere out west here soon. We were looking at Bend, Oregon, but we may even be going toward, thanks, Redding, California. So I was just yesterday looking at the distances to all of like the major cities and the different national forests and stuff. Yeah,
Redding is a hidden gem. It's near Tahoe. It has that outdoor feel, and it gets quite sunny, and you're also near Sacramento. So I feel like up there is going to boom really soon. So you got to hop on something like that.
Yeah, we'll see then. We'll definitely see. She's thinking about taking the position, so it'd probably be a couple weeks till we find that out. But anyways, I digress.
Congratulations.
I'm falling apart a little bit here. So yeah, thank you so much.
Don't worry, I do the same. Trust me.
Yeah. So going back, kind of going back through your timeline a little bit, let's go to high school. Like you were doing golf camp, you get to high school. What does life start to look like then from you to that point?
High school was a very tumultuous time in my life, to be very frank. I felt very like alone, and this is like the time in my life where a lot of my mental health was starting to like deteriorate. When I was younger, when I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with contamination OCD. So I had to get help as a little kid from that, and I've been in therapy ever since I was quite a young little lad. So I think that's also another reason why connecting with people and being and leaning on like that emotional side for me is something that I really invite and welcome in, because it's been a part of my life for so long. And I think that's also why I really like endurance sports, because it has allowed me the ability to feel strong when I feel weak. And I know I may not be the fastest, I may not be the strongest, I may not be the one who's becoming Strava legend all the time or hitting every single PR, but I know that I can withstand and I like never give up on me. And everything that has led me up to where I am now is because of the hardships that I've been through. So high school was quite hard. Getting out of like recovering from that like OCD contamination set me really free. But through that, I developed an eating disorder. I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa. I lost quite like trigger warning. I lost a lot of weight and I was very unwell. And during high school, my days after school were going to my therapist. They were going to my pediatrician to get weigh-ins, my pediatrician to get like my blood drawn, going to dietitians. And it was also a really rocky time in my parents' life. I had to stop playing lacrosse. I had to stop doing sports. I ended up being homeschooled for my last year and a half of high school. So it was very much kind of like a really hard time on all of us. And I think that's why the Benvenutis are a force. We're so, so strong in who we are because we know what it's like to really be down. And my parents are people that I've like leaned on through it. But what was really hard about not being well in that time in my life was I couldn't run anymore and I couldn't do the things that I really loved because I had a really, really rocky relationship with my body image and food and seeing myself as an ornament rather than a machine. And I think a lot of the reason why people who do endurance sports have kind of a hard relationship with food is there's this big emphasis on being like small to be like aerodynamic or like, you know, you're not wearing like much clothing if you're running or like you are cycling. It's all like tight clothing or like sports bras and shorts. So I think that like through that time in my life of getting help and seeking help, I was okay for a little bit. And then when I went to college, that was when everything started to really, really go down bad for me. And I was a freshman in college in San Luis Obispo, California, and COVID hit like a couple months in of my freshman year of college. And then I was living with a group of girls at a time. And then that was also kind of like a weird environment. I felt kind of like alone and odd man out of that because everyone was super, super close. And I was like the girl who just like came in like trying to make friends. And then I took a turn for the worse during COVID. And the only way to kind of like break myself free of all the anxiety and everything that I had was to work out. And like when I am all in on something, I'm truthfully all in on it. So like during COVID, I like was in my bathroom at my parents' house, turning on like 2 heaters, the shower. I wanted to make it super hot. Like I was in a hot yoga studio. I was like working out with like dumbbell weights and I had like my iPad propped like on my faucet handles so I could like see it and it wouldn't hurt my neck if I like did certain moves. It was so funny. Not really funny, but like it was like thinking about it now, I'm like, Grace, come on, like
yeah, a little extreme.
Chill out. So no, like for me, I felt like quite alone. And I also went through a breakup at the time during COVID. So I was like also feeling like quite sad. And then I was like, Mom, I really want to move back to SLO. All my friends are moving back. Like it feels safe enough to go back during COVID. So I moved back and then I took a road trip back up to see my parents. And I was just extremely translucent and super unwell looking. And my mom just got out of the car when she saw me and was like, we need to have you like go somewhere. So luckily there was a rehab center in the town of San Luis Obispo, actually like not too far from the apartment that I lived at when I lived alone, like a 300 square foot apartment. And I went to that rehab center 5 days a week, from morning to afternoon. And then when it came evening time of having to go back home, I didn't want to see anyone. I was so tired, so emotionally drained. And it was weekly weigh-ins, group therapy every day, one-on-one sessions. I think I said weigh-ins and just kind of like, and you never knew what you were going to eat when you were going to the treatment center. So the dietitian never told you like, hey, Grace, you're going to have like this for lunch. And like, it was really the ability to like lean on like my courage and my strength. And also, going there, like I would go work out when I wasn't technically allowed to, but it was honestly kind of crazy because I would see my therapist at the fitness studios that I would go work out at, and they technically weren't allowed to like say that I worked out because, you know, I'm not at the center. So it was kind of crazy. It was like I would look at them and they'd look at me and we'd both know what was going on. And insurance ended up not wanting to keep me at the treatment center. It's like a really hard time thinking about like how people have to deal with like insurance of, you know, getting care and getting help. So I decided if the insurance was going to drop me, I wanted to leave before someone else gave up on me. So I said to the therapist and everyone at the treatment center, I was 20 at the time, I was like, I'm 20, I'm an adult, I'm going to leave on my own. So I moved back home with my parents. I didn't necessarily recover at that treatment center, but being home, I had the ability to have a better relationship with food and exercise and do it my way. And I think that's also why I really love endurance sports, because it's my way or the highway. Like, I do it how I want to do it. And I think it just shows like the test of my strength of like, I know I can lean on me no matter what. So going back home was honestly one of the best things I've ever done for myself in my entire life. And I'm very, very grateful for that experience and who it's made me today.
Yeah. Let me dive in some more to that if you don't mind.
Yes.
So in the beginning,
I am so comfortable talking about this stuff.
Okay, good. So I'll tell a little bit of like my story just for a little bit of overlap, and then maybe it's relatable, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
But when I was probably 16, 17, my younger sister, just full transparency, people who listen to podcasts know, like, I lost my dad when I was 16 to suicide. Like, he struggled with mental health to the T. I never struggled with it in the same way he did, but my sisters have, younger sisters, and particularly one of my sisters, like, she really struggled with like cutting and then like bulimia. And I really looked down on her for a while, actually, on the bulimia side, because I was like, how could you do that, or what is that? But in my own way, I was struggling with my own kind of body issues, dysmorphia. Like, I wanted to be, I was always shorter. I was never super lean like all the other guys who I wanted, to aspire to be like or whatnot. And then I got older, and it was just like, I never thought like, oh, I'd become bulimic or anything like that. But one time out of interest was like, oh, I'll try this. It seems like such a crazy thing to even admit, but I did, and then it became like a thing where it was like almost routine, or like I would eat a ton, gorge myself, and then like, want to like purge it all out or whatever. And it took me a long time to actually overcome that, probably even like the last, probably 4 years ago, that it just like kind of really cut out, because I told my wife about it, and she didn't know about it till after we were married. She's like, that's a huge issue. And I never even really saw it as an issue. I was like, oh, it's something I do every once in a while, but didn't realize like it was really an issue. So for you, I'm curious, like, how did you get on that path? First of all, when did you start looking at yourself in the mirror and be like, oh, like, I don't like what I'm seeing, and then you're making a plan to like, oh, here's how I'm gonna overcome that to get to what I want? Like, how did you get to that point?
Of course. I also want to start by saying, like, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that it takes a lot of courage to be open. And I appreciate that, like, I can give you space to say how you feel. So thank you so much, Seth. And I'm happy you're doing much better.
I appreciate that.
And every day is different, one day at a time. So I think, like, for me, how it kind of all manifested was, I honestly think, let's turn it back to like me being very transparent and honest, was always being told I was a funny kid growing up. Like, I never was told like, oh, you're so pretty or you're so beautiful. And I know that's like that might be vain, but at times where it's like when I felt like I wasn't as strong or athletic as my other friends growing up, and I was the tallest out of my friend group, where I like had a little bit more on me, that I felt like I need to be more toned. I think for me, like, that was a little like pang in me that always kind of stuck with me growing up, of like feeling like I looked different. And then it really just lit a fire under my ass, where it's like, I don't feel like seen and recognized by like people, like my parents, very seen by my mom, my dad, my sister. But like for me, it was like when you're going through puberty and you like want to be noticed by guys, or like you want to be like a part of the friend group, and like everything is very cliquey. Like, I felt like I wanted to belong in a certain way. And that was kind of like when I started to lose a lot of weight, and I was becoming more like quite thin, to be honest. And like working out felt very euphoric for me, and like the ability to like sweat and like work for something and feel like it's me versus the world. In hindsight, I never really had crazy, like issues or problems going on that made me feel like I had to like fight for something. It was really just the battle within, or issues I created inside of my own head of like, oh, he like isn't liking me, or like I wasn't picked to do this, or this shirt doesn't fit this way like it does the other girl. I think when I was younger, comparison was quite the killer, and I really leaned on that. And that was just kind of like how I rolled, and it became like a grudge, like a hunch, not a, what am I saying? It became and like a thing for me to lean on during almost
a
anything.
crutch.
Yeah, a crutch. Thank you.
Yeah, a
Yeah.
hutch, a hitch. Yeah,
A hutch, a hitch. Yeah, it was my crutch.
With your parents, you mentioned for a second like that they were going through a rough time. Do you think that contributed to this like journey in the beginning, the situation?
One that contributed to them going through a rough time, because they were always like worried about me. I became the worry growing up of like, is Grace okay? Like, we'll do anything to make Grace feel like more comfortable. So they were kind of like walking on eggshells, because I kind of like controlled the space of like, we're not going to go eat there, or like, we're going to eat this for dinner, or like, I won't allow this in our house because it has like X, Y, and Z on the nutrition count, or like I kind of ran the show.
Wow.
And I think that was a way in which they really wanted to honor that I had the ability of like wanting to eat so I could do all of my other sports. But it was a weird power dynamic that I had a little bit more power than them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did you guys like come to terms? Was there some forgiveness and like working through that? Because I mean, that's a serious thing. Like, because they want to help you. They obviously have their own thoughts and feelings, and oftentimes people that don't struggle with something like that, it can be hard to relate and understand. Especially, I would say, from like a male to female perspective, it's less common in the males. So like, you guys closer now?
Oh, of course. We went to a family therapist who is amazing, out of Mill Valley, California, and we like really leaned on that for a bit. So no, we're all good. We're also like very candid people, and I think it's really nice to know that no matter what, they're going to be there for me. I'm going to be there for them. But everyone and every kid has their growing pains, and that was my growing pain. But they're almost 37 years of marriage. They're going really strong. So very grateful for that.
Yeah, they've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's super neat. Good for them. In 37 years, that's amazing. Longer than I've been married, and I've been married now for 7 years, and we've been through some ups and downs, and every time you go in the circle of up and down, it kind of strengthens that bond. So I can only imagine that they have a pretty time-tested relationship. So that's really neat. I'm happy for them.
Thank you. And congratulations to you and your wife. I'd love that one day.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. You'll get there. I didn't get married till I was 26, so you got time, and you got time. No worries.
I just need someone who likes bikes as much as I do.
Exactly. Yeah. Keep going to triathlons. There's plenty of those people around.
Oh, yeah. I'll spectate all the sports.
Yeah. I'm curious, actually. I want to kind of an off-the-cuff question. With your social media influencing, you're out there, like you're doing the bicycling stuff. Do you have guys jumping in your DMs all the time trying to take you on a date?
Oh my God. I encourage the DMs. They're also like very humorous. I have had some really, really funny ones, and some of the comments on my videos, unfortunately, like people have settings in their Instagram accounts where they have like comment blockers. So like I want to respond to every single comment that I can, but sometimes people's accounts won't let me comment. So if there is like a comment where I don't reply, it's not because I want to ignore you. It's because you're not letting me comment to you.
Yeah. Interesting.
I would say for my like journey for Instagram, I've had Instagram ever since I was 12 years old, which is kind of like crazy. Wow. But I posted like for fun with my friends, and like it's such a thing. Like people who at the time where Facebook was a big thing, you download Facebook or like you download Snapchat, you download any kind of social media platform. So for me, it was Instagram. And then I randomly decided to post a video of me on my road bike in Golden Gate Park. I was wearing this really, really cute kit, and I was like, oh, I'm like feeling the endorphins are flowing. Like, yeah, I was like, I want to say something funny. Originally, I was going to post it on my Instagram story, but then I was like, hey, this might entertain, and who knows? So I posted it. I didn't hashtag or like do anything to it. I think I like tagged San Francisco as my location. And it just definitely blew up and popped off. And reading all the comments and getting like the direct messages has been quite amazing. I've had like a couple brands reach out to me that are really, really exciting, that I'm like, oh, there's like partnership potential in that. And like meeting people that I wouldn't have met before has been really, really cool. It's kind of a new wave of like dating, because I'm like, it's not Hinge. I'm not on Tinder, but it's not like Bumble or like any of those other things. It's like, this is my Instagram reel. That's the new age of it.
A very wide net. Yeah, that's wild. So when did that happen? Like, when did you start to like
on a cruise? And I met my husband through my crazy Instagram reel.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. When did that happen? When was that first reel like that popped off for you?
That was actually like a week and a half ago, and I went from I started like waking up to like a bunch of followers, a bunch of comments, and it just kept progressing over time. And it was kind of crazy because I like didn't think that would like do anything, because like one, it's like it's just me being me. And it's kind of like a little dumb, a little bit like what? But it just stuck with people and they liked it, and I am very grateful for it. So I will never stop doing stuff like that.
You just recently have started growing like crazy. And I guess, because I'm looking at your follower count now, you're like almost at 22,000. And I feel like the other day you were at 19.
Yeah. And then, and then I remember it was like, I was texting my sister. I was like, wait, I hit 10K. That's crazy. And then I was like, no, wait, now it's like 14. And then I like texted my mom. I was like, this is so cool. Like, what is going on? And she was like, oh my God, Grace, like you've always wanted to like do something like this and, make people laugh. And like, now this is an ability and a platform, and I have a wider net, so I can really lean on like what I love to do. And I also think it's really fun to be a woman in the space of cycling, because I think also the space of cycling on social media, especially Instagram, is quite harsh, and it's quite, it makes you kind of feel like you can't really get into it, because you see people with these amazing bikes, these like really expensive like TT bikes and like everything, and you're like, how do I even start? This is so expensive. It's like a rabbit hole, and everyone looks like they know what they're doing. One, no one knows what they're doing 100% of the time. We're all trying our best with what we have. And two, I think for me, the reason why it really stuck with me is because like I have kind of a really old Facebook Marketplace bike. It's a Specialized bike. It doesn't even fit me. It's a size 52. When I first like got into cycling, they like didn't even know my size. And I just bought it because it was like pretty. I'm 5'3" to 5'4" on a good day. I should be on a 49.
So it's like a little bit big.
Yeah. I bought a new bike. So I'm super excited. It's my size, and it was an investment. So I'm very excited about that. But besides the point, like it might not be the best, but it's like good for me. It's a Scott Speedster, and it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's like white, it's cute, and I was like, okay, this is great. My next step, hopefully I'll get a sponsorship from one of those like big bike companies, and I can like do something just to manifest.
Yeah.
But I think for people, they get a little bit scared about the cycling space, because people online can be a little bit like, look at me, I'm so cool. Or like, my bike is so fast. What does yours do?
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, you can't even hear my bike spin.
Yeah.
It's not hot.
Yeah.
It's not something that like is like cool.
Yeah.
But
and who needs that, honestly?
no.
But I have a question more, I guess, around this. Yeah. A question around this, like you growing now into this space. Instagram is starting to become maybe even like eventually your livelihood. You're gaining popularity. A couple of questions around that. One, you've kind of touched on, like, what are you gonna do to be an influencer that invites like kind of that wide net where people who may not have the money or whatever to go out and get the nice stuff to like join this sport, whether it's cycling, running, or swimming or whatever. And then the second part is you've obviously have had like a very real journey and story when it comes to like anorexia and body image, and in the cycling space. Not everyone, but like you said, it tends to, the accounts that end up being followed are the pretty girls with the nice kits, with the nice bikes and all that stuff. And you said like you wanted to get away from the body becoming like an ornament and then being more seen as like a machine or something of more value than that. So how are you going to fight the temptation to only post the stuff that you know is like going to get the picture, the likes and the comments because I'm cute, look what I'm doing, you know what I mean?
Oh, wait, can you ask the first question again?
Yeah. So the first question was, what are you going to do to overcome that? Or I guess not overcome, but like make sure that what you're posting and what you're doing is making the sport seem accessible to people who may not have the funds.
Sure.
Like, yeah.
I think that's definitely something I want to lean on and be more talkative about. I think for me, it's like if I can own the fact that like I may not have like the nicest bike, or I may not be the fastest, or I mean, I went and did Ironman Morro Bay, and I'm pulling up with my like bike, and this is me being very brutally honest. I attach more in like gels and solids with like blue tape around my bike. I'm like coming at this from a very like humble beginning, like truly. I don't have like the water bottle that's stuffed to the stem of the bike that you have the little straw out of and like you can lean your arms on. I also need to be more educated on like the technicality of things. So I'm coming at this with like very open arms. And I think leaning on that and being honest on social media and like also on this podcast is going to allow other people to see like, hey, like she's just the average Joe on the bike. Like maybe I can do this too. Because like I said, like I may not have the equipment that's like super, super fast, but I know that I can invest also in me to make myself go fast and be strong. And then the other question of like trying not to lean on that, like always posting the cutesy stuff. There's always going to be a time and a place to post the cutesy stuff. I'm Grace. Like, I'm always going to want to, like, look cute and have my hair done, my nails done. Like, I used to live in Big Sky, Montana, and I swear I was the only person there who, like, had their hair, like, done and their nails done. And, like, for me, it's, like, I always want to maintain a level of, you know, investing in myself and feeling like I am put together, because when I invest in that, I feel like I can pour into so many other cups, you know, look good, feel good. That's a big part of like training too, and performing well when you're at your races. But I also feel like I make up in my videos, or like I have really bad hormonal acne that I like take medicine for every single day. So it's like, I'm not always going to have moments where like I'm going to look prim and proper. And I think like if the content is good and I like possibly like how it is when I'm taking it, I don't need to like always be put together to post. I think that also like makes people afraid to post.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I did have one more question kind of going back on the body image stuff. How do you deal with that now? Like, do you ever have any temptations to kind of fall back into those old mindsets, or have you to a place where you kind of past it?
This is such a good question, Seth. So I think for me, if I allow it back into my space, I know for me it's starting to come and creep back in when it stops allowing me the ability to have fun and to connect with others. I think my big MO of life is having fun and connecting with others. So if there are times where it's like I set a plan to meet someone for drinks or I'm getting dinner with someone and I have a bad body image day that day, I really lean in to the discomfort of knowing that, hey, I'm okay either way. I made these plans. I'm not going to cancel on them because of not feeling like my best body image self, because you never know what you're going to get out of that experience. And even sometimes, like, I catch myself before a run or getting on the bike where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like fast right now. I feel kind of like slow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's maybe the night before I had a drink or two or I ate a big meal, or like I'm not like sticking to like my nutritional plan for my goals that I want out of my performance. So if I allow that to interfere with my ability to do the things that I love or to be around others, then I know it's an issue. And for me, I've seen it in people that I have like been friends with or have like got to know on a deeper level of like them being very, very into like endurance sports and having kind of like those same mindsets of body image that deter them from being with someone. I don't want to like be that. I used to be like that, and I know what it's like to really allow it to hinder you from what could be special or to connect with others or to do the fun thing.
Do you think you have life figured out yet?
Oh my God, such a good question. I feel like I have lived 9 lives like a cat, Seth, and I'm excited for my 10th life. And in this 10th life, I don't have it figured out, but I'm learning every single day. And I have this, something one of my tri coaches taught me was visualizing. And this has been something that I use almost in every single thing that I do, not just in like going to races, or doing like duathlon, sprints, or Olympics, but just kind of like how I live my life of like, I had this visualization of my goals and like that delayed gratification that I think a lot of endurance athletes really like lean into, is that like gradual build to get there. I don't like, you never know what joy will pop out of life or who you're going to meet or what situation you're going to like be bestowed upon. And I really try to invite in everything, even if it's scary. And I don't have it figured out, but I'm excited to get there. And I'm excited to try new things and hopefully do more races. I'm so excited to race more.
Yeah. Yeah, so Morro Bay, obviously you DNF'd with the swim and then they give you a pass.
I did.
mean, so, there was like 600 athletes, right? That was like, I saw videos.
Yes.
It was absolutely insane.
It was so insane.
And then what's your next one? Yeah.
First, let's talk about Morro Bay for a brief moment. I used to live in San Luis Obispo, went to the rehab center in San Luis Obispo, so Morro Bay is not too far. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is a really cool full circle moment race for me. I put a lot of emphasis on this race to finish because I was like, I was at a really bad place in my life when I used to live in San Luis Obispo. I can rewrite the story. I'm not afraid of that I'll face swimming, biking, and running. If it's cold, it's cold. I'll get over it. If it's foggy and blistery while we're on the bike, I'll get over it. The run will be really hard, but I'll get over it. And that race meant a lot to me. And I remember just like being in the swimming, and I wasn't cold. First off, I was like, wait, this is actually like really cool. One, my body's not cold. I feel really buoyant in the water. But the issue with that race for swimming was the sighting part. Because, you know, a race like Santa Cruz, the Ironman down there, you have the pier to sight off of. So you know, like, hey, this is how far I'm going. I'm this far away from shore. I have this much to go in my swim. So for the Morro Bay one, the sighting was a little weird. And then 2, the race people started it, the race volunteers started the swim an hour early than it should have been started. So all of us were a little bit confused, but like for someone like me, who this is like my first IM, I was like, oh, cool. We'll start it early. We'll get it over with. Like, let's go. So swim, I really didn't think much of it. I placed myself in the 40 to 45 minute like category range to finish the swim. I should have started quite early, but at that point in my like triathlon journey, which it'll always go on for the rest of my life. I'll never end this sport. I didn't, start myself at the head because I'm not going to finish the swim like faster than 40 to 45 minutes. And also I want to give space for others who know that they're going to do that swim better than me to be up at the front. I also didn't want to start way at the back because I wanted to get the swim over with. And I remember hitting that right turn at that red buoy to make the turn, because you're in open water, but you're technically in a bay, which is protected, which they really emphasized on the website and the race course, and also just like the fact that I'd been to that beach before. I know what it's like. I knew that little like area that was protected. I felt quite safe thinking about it. But in it, there was a moment where I like hit that red buoy to turn and the water just got so crazy. I was like looking behind me and people that like seemed quite athletic. Also, something that I really love about Ironman is it's of people of all ages and sizes. Like I saw people who were like quite older than me, like probably the same age as me, 23, like out there. And there's that sense of camaraderie. And yeah, so hitting that turn, I started to notice the water, and then I was looking at my Garmin watch like, this is kind of weird. I'm like not making any progress. And I just thought to myself, I was like, I need to save my legs. I keep kicking and kicking. I need to save my energy for my legs for the next portions of the race. Like, why can't I do this? And then I start like literally drinking in like the salt water. And then I try to like turn. It's so gross. And then I got slapped in the face by like an old guy. I was like, we look at each other like, you just slapped me. That's a part of triathlon, the ability to get slapped in the water. You just have to deal with it. So I was like, I can't move. It's such a fest. So I'm trying to hit that turn and everyone is raising their hand, like, help, get me out, get me out. And there are people holding on to paddle boards, like underneath, their legs are curled over, they're holding on. There were like race boats out. There were people on like rafts trying to like get people to shore. And my right calf, which I've had issues with running, always kind of cramps up. So it decided to cramp up on me when I'm really pulling for the swim. And I got a Charlie's horse in the water where like my foot just kind of like, everyone knows what a Charlie's horse feels like. It's like horrible. Felt really paralyzing. So I'm like, help. And this guy who was holding on to like a sailboat, because the sailboats were kind of like coming in the water because they were like all rocky and some are docked in the middle of the water. So he's holding onto a sailboat, and I'm like, oh my God, like, go race. Like, I don't want you to stop me. Like, stop trying to save me. Like, go save yourself. Like, go and finish.
Yeah.
And he grabbed my arm and he's like, no, I like can't do this anymore. And I just like I can't do this either. And then I yell for help. I get into a raft and I just start crying, and like I put my hands in my face. And I'm like, this race meant so much more to me than like the ability to say I did an Ironman 70.3 or like flex on social media. It was me like to myself, like, this was a place in my life where I had a hard time. I'm going to rewrite the story. And I think another big part of like why Ironman is a big deal to me and triathlons is it is a way for me to look at my body in a different way, of like the ability to perform and do long endurance distances is a testament to how much I've grown in my relationship with food and exercise, because I don't want this sport that I love. I don't want food or nutrition or like gels or goos or all that stuff to deter me from the sport that I love. Because I truly, really love triathlons. I love talking about them. I love bikes. I love running.
Yeah.
I'll end up liking swimming a little bit more. But I just like
Yeah.
love this type of stuff. And I don't want like that time in my life to creep back in and stop me from doing another thing that I love.
Very beautiful. Very well said. Thanks for
Thank
sharing that
you.
story. I felt like I was in there,
Yeah.
and yeah, like the crying, even in getting. I've had some cry moments, usually at the end, or
Yeah.
like not being able to finish something. But yeah, that's really tough. But thanks for sharing that story. So I guess I want to ask the question because obviously triathlon means a lot to you, and it's becoming a part of who you are
hmm
or the things that you do. Where did triathlon enter the story into Grace's life? Like, where did you first find the interaction?
Oh my God. I love this question. So I originally was drawn to cycling through a friend of mine growing up. She was super into it. Her dad was a big cyclist, so I kind of like got a little glimpse into the space. And then I started to really love like group fitness classes. Group fitness classes are also a really big part of my life. I'm a certified hot yoga instructor. Used to teach for 2 years in Marin County, like doing the sculpt classes with weights. So my one of my other friends would do soul cycle classes. It's like very probably so annoying for all triathletes to listen and be like, she started because she liked like soul cycle. So
Yeah.
got into soul cycle. And then I was like to Utah and I like was in my Uber back to Salt Lake City Airport and I was like, I really want to buy a Peloton. It's COVID, like nothing's really open anymore. And also I was like, I can get entertained on the bike. So I bought a Peloton, became obsessed with it. And then I moved to Big Sky, Montana during the summer to be a Yellowstone guide. So I
Oh,
took people
cool.
on hikes. Yeah, I took people on hikes. It was a big step in my life because I was like, Montana's the Wild West. I've never done something like this. Like, gotta push myself always. So I moved out there not knowing anyone, was a guide, took people on hikes, taught air rifle safety, shot some guns, did some other really, really fun stuff up in the mountains. And I also taught mountain biking. So I didn't know much about
Oh,
mountain
sick.
biking, but I had an instructor there, who was a part of like the outdoor guide team that I was on, who really like taught me the ins and outs of mountain biking, which was really fun. It's quite scary up in the mountains. Descending was one of the dreams. I was always the slowest one, but I had so much fun. So, and then after Montana, I moved to San Francisco. And there is such a big cycling community and a triathlon like community in San Francisco because of the immense beauty that the city has to offer, but also the access to Marin County is quite easy going over the bridge, going up to Hawk Hill, Mount Tam, riding around the neighborhoods. Mill Valley is like a really, really nice spot. Like I like to go take my bike up. And then also to like really
Hmm.
dive back, growing up in Sonoma County, there's a huge biking community here, which now coming back up home, I now have a bike up here. I'll have a bike in San Francisco, and then I'll be getting another bike. So I'll have three at my
Nice.
parents' house, my parents' other house in the desert down in Southern California. So I'm trying to like land bikes wherever I can to soak up all the
Yeah.
atmosphere has to offer. So that's kind of like how I got into it, and then just became friends with people who were really, really well versed in triathlons and have always kind of been attracted to triathletes too. So that's like also a big topic of conversation in my life. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, who can deal with me or the fact that I like to talk about bikes or want to spectate their races or be the like the snack bag cheerleader like for them.
Yeah. Yeah, it adds a lot to life. Triathlon is you have to be a little nutty, I think, to jump into it. But it's really good to
Yeah.
hear that you want to do it for life because oftentimes, sadly, it's like, oh, Iron Man, I want to do that, and then I become an Iron
Yeah.
Man. They kind of check that off the bucket list, but it really is a
Yeah.
lifestyle once you dive into it. And I mean, everything in moderation to a degree. You can do it unhealthfully, and I've seen that, and I've been on
Yeah.
that side of the train
Mhm.
of overtraining and becoming obsessed with it a little bit too much. But when you find the balance, like if I'm going to be addicted to cocaine or triathlon, I think I'd rather pick, triathlon for obvious reasons. So it's good to
Yeah.
hear that you're committed. It'll be fun to follow your journey along and to your next race. When is your next race?
Yes. So love that I am decided to give us another race to do. So I will be doing Santa Cruz September of this year, which I'm so excited about. And then I have the Boulder Marathon that same month, which is going to be crazy. I think I'm just going to do a half it in Boulder. Or if
Okay,
God forbid
sweet.
something goes wrong with Ironman in September at the beginning, I will scrap Boulder
Yeah.
and just kind of have a nice weekend up in Sonoma County or San Francisco.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing how that goes. Do you think that you're gonna
Yes.
try to do Morro Bay again to kind of have the full closure to like rewriting that story?
Oh my God, I am that type of woman who's like, I need to make this a journey of some sort. But I feel like, yeah, I'll probably like do it. I want to do races that are outside of California, to be honest, because I'm like, I would love to do Salem. Oh my gosh, that's river swim would be insane, just like so fast out the jump. And then I've really been attracted to the idea of visiting Maine and like the East Coast. So I'd love to do like the one in Maine. Jones Beach would be really cool in New York. That's also going to be like the weekend
Oh
of
yeah,
my, that's the weekend of my Boulder Marathon. So yeah, just kind of exploring new places. And I think that even like I had a duathlon, which was kind of like in at Lake Berryessa and Napa, and then there's like some other sprint and Olympic ones, but they're always in the weirdest of places in California. Like in the middle of they're like in the middle of like where, but they're located close to where I live, where it'd be like, okay, I'd be riding my car out like to 4 hours there and then 4 hours back and then getting a
yeah.
hotel kind of like somewhere that I like don't really know of, doing the race. But I think that's also what makes the sport so special is because it is,
Hmm.
you can kind of do it anywhere. And even if I'm not doing races, I can do like a really long ride myself or just like do some like swimming in Aquatic Park in San Francisco, which is a really, really popular hub of a spot, or just like swimming the rivers up in Sonoma County.
Yeah, it's really neat with the triathlon racing because it's when I grew up in the country of North Carolina and
Yeah.
way out in the middle of nowhere, and we did a lot of these what's called hare scramble races, which is like motocross for rednecks basically,
Whoa.
and we go and just race our dirt bikes in the woods. But I only did the local races, but I had friends who did it like every, few weekends, multiple
Yeah.
months of the year whenever it was in season, and they would travel all over the U.S. to do it. And I was always like, oh, I don't know if I like it that much. But now doing triathlon, like I'm willing to drive basically halfway across the country for a weekend race, which is
Yeah.
pretty insane. But I guess when you love something, you really love something. So that's just how it goes.
You're an all-in type of guy, Seth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One race I do want to recommend actually,
Yes.
if you want to do East Coast, there's a really awesome Olympic distance one that's the oldest running triathlon, I think, in the U.S. It's St. Anthony's
Good.
in St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah, you have to check it out. It's a pretty sweet race.
I love that. I think I have like
Yeah.
when I was at Morro Bay, I had like this St. Anthony or like St. Christopher necklace my mom gave me when I moved out to Big Sky. I was like, oh, this necklace will help me get through the race.
Yeah.
It didn't. But maybe if I do that race down in Florida, it
St.
will.
Anthony's.
Or
Yeah,
yeah,
maybe.
I think that's like the patron
Are,
of like protection.
okay.
I don't
Do
know.
you practice? I mean, you said your dad grew up like a pretty strict practicing Catholic. Are you Catholic, or do you claim that to be your religion or spirituality?
I am a really spiritual person. I'm of the belief that like everything happens for a reason or like synchronicities are so real. Um I never got confirmed in the Catholic Church, but when I was around like 20 to 21, I would go to my like local Christian church because I really like some of the messages that they had and also felt like another community that I like could belong to and I still like
Yeah.
go every once in a while, but not of like the every single Sunday type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Thanks for sharing that.
Of course.
So I have just a couple more questions for you. The
Hmm.
first one, you're 23, right? So you've got a
Yes.
job, you're working as a project manager in a tech company. I would assume it's a tech company. Is that correct?
It's not. It is a sports and active lifestyle company. So it is
Oh, cool.
a company where we acquire like ski resorts. We acquire like other clubs and make it our own. Yeah, it's a really, really cool company based out of San Francisco. So it's not tech.
Okay, cool. So, yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean, tech's up and down these days. You never know when you might lose a job. So
Hmm.
that I think that's pretty good for
Yeah.
you. But so you have a lot of life experience already at 23. You've got this Instagram following that's popping off. You've got triathlon in your life now.
Yeah.
Where do you want to be around the ages of 28 to 30? Like, what do you want your life to look like?
Do you see how big my smile is? Because I'm like so like, oh, my chair. I am so excited about that era of my life and every single era that'll lead up to 28, 29, 30, and beyond. But for me, I
Yeah.
think I would love to continue to manicure my skills of triathlons and always push that and make it like one of the forefronts of my life. I
Yeah.
think for me, I would also really like to stay in San Francisco for a little bit, or like maybe have the potential or see if like a job would land me in another city. I'm like quite open to the possibility of like being somewhere else, but I also know that like my heart will always be in Northern California in one way or another. And I think
Yeah.
for me, I would really love to eventually one day, since I come from a very tight-knit family, hopefully finding someone who is all in on me and I'm all in on them, and really foster a really amazing relationship with someone that I can lean on and they can lean on me. Hopefully be
Yeah.
engaged or married by the time I'm like 28, 29, and then have kids because I want to raise really strong individuals. I think something that is so exciting for me
Yeah.
is the ability to give all of my gifts to someone else and really see someone shine.
Mhm.
And I want to raise like some crazy athletes out there. I don't want to have to pay for their college. I want them to have to be D1.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I would pay for them.
D1 scholarship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me that's a big part of like what I want when I'm older.
Yeah. Yeah, those are good things. I'll be 30 I'll be 32
Hmm.
in September, and my wife just graduated from grad school, and we're probably going to be
Yeah.
shooting for kids here soon, and a lot of my friends have kids, and yeah, I can confirm that it's quite the cool
It's
thing.
a
I don't have
job.
kids yet, so I guess I can't confirm in that. Yeah, but it is a job, but it seems to be very rewarding. My little sister, she just had a baby, and he is 8, 9 weeks
Hmm.
now, and I've obviously fallen in love with him. But yeah, it's those are all very admirable things, and I'm sure you will be a great mom and a great wife someday.
Oh,
So
thank
keep
you.
searching. Don't give up, and you'll be doing great. Yeah. And
I'm gonna let
what
it
family
flow for
can't be
me.
completed and beautiful without triathlon? Yeah.
I know. I agree.
So, one final question for you.
Hmm.
It's one that I'd like you to kind of give some advice to listeners, and for those who maybe haven't talked to anybody about it and they do struggle with body image, or maybe one
Hmm.
of these eating disorders or whatever it is, and it can even just be an inner critical voice. How would you advise them on how to find, I guess, contentment or peace in the realm of like how you view yourself physically?
That's such a great question. I think it really comes down to, for me personally, of bringing myself down to earth, of realizing, we all struggle with something in life. And if you can really allow space for yourself to feel all the emotions and don't shut it away and really lean in on, the discomfort of things, like something my therapist always said to me growing up, and I have said it just now and I said it a billion times, but was like the ability to lean in and kind of really find comfort in the discomfort and know that no matter what, you will always have you. So if you feel like the world is crashing down you're going through a hard time with work, relationships, family, friends, you feel like you're down and out, the world's just given up on you, just know no one else you won't give up on you. Like, don't be the one to give up on yourself. And I think that it's really important to know and feel that like you are loved no matter what, and you deserve to be seen and go where places that you are celebrated and loved for more than just your body, for who you are. And you can be a really pretty person, but if you're not pretty inside, then it's really not going to take you anywhere.
Yeah.
So just stay kind.
Beautiful advice. Well, Grace.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Grace, thank you so much for coming on, for letting me dive into your story some. Yeah, it was a great honor of mine, and we'll have to do it again in the future. But all the best to you and your endeavors, and just everything that's coming down the pike. I remember when I was 23, so much has happened since I was 23, and I know you'll have a great time. So thank you for coming on.
Maybe I'll like win Ironman Kona. By the time we talk next, I'll be like,
exactly.
Yeah,
there you
I won
go.
Kona. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
Seth, it's
good
been
luck.
such a pleasure.
That's a very hard race.
I need the luck. Also, thank you to everyone who is taking the time to listen to this podcast and connect with Seth and I on Instagram, social media, all that sort. So we really appreciate you. And yeah, thank you so much. It's been really, really fun.
Good. Thank you. Huge shout out and thank you to Grace for coming on the podcast and being so vulnerable and sharing about her story of overcoming anorexia, getting into cycling and triathlon, the stuff that she's got going on for work, and just her overall life story. Really appreciate her taking the time to share it, especially that moral-based story. That was quite the experience, obviously, for her and the 600 other individuals who were disqualified on that. I want to leave you with a few words from Grace when I asked her how to basically overcome or find peace and contentment in body image. Just remember what she said, is that you are loved and you deserve to be seen. If you made it to this point in the podcast, just want to say thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here and for helping to grow this community. If you are listening or watching anywhere, if you could like, comment, subscribe, review, drop a comment, share with all of your friends, that really helps us to continue to grow this podcast, and I greatly appreciate it. If you want to sign up for our newsletter on the website, you can do so at stupidquestions.show. At the top, there is a link to the newsletter. Thank you guys so much for jumping in and for listening to this episode. Really appreciate all of you. I will catch you in the next one.